Hey guys, well I've finally made a decision on my bumpers and I've decided I'm gonna return them back to the original black that they should be, and under the door skirts as well. So I'm going to do a series of videos. Well, I'll combine them all into one, but I'm going to do it over a certain amount of time, and upload those videos about restoring these bumpers back to the original. I've taken off one of the chrome trims because I noticed it's always been there. I had a tiny little bit of rust just down on the seal just there where I've been working on. There's no real holes in it, so it's quite solid, but I put some rust converter on it, and I'm going to let that soak in. That's the rust buster there that I've used. Rain-X. It's good stuff. Used it for many years. There was a couple of little tiny spots here and here. Now to get these trims off, trim is under here. All you have to know is that underneath they're glued on, so they've got some kind of adhesive on them. So it's just a matter of using a bit of a tool, getting in underneath it and just finding where they are. You can run that along like that, find where they are, and then just break that seal. You might be able to use a gasket scraper as well. I just used those two tools and it came off. Just be very careful when you take it off. You don't want to bend it. I'm actually going to look at renewing these, as in polishing them up. I'm going to do the one on the other side, obviously, but I had to do this first. I've got to sort this out first because, as you may know, all underneath here also has to be black to be as it was when it came from the factory. So I'll get to work on that. So I've started this. I'll get to work on that, and I'll do a series of videos and combine them all into one, showing its transformation. Anyhow, I guess that's the end of part one. Cheers. Okay, I've treated those small rust spots with the Rain-X rust converter, and as you can see there, it's done its job overnight and it's turned out pretty good. It's very solid, and there's really not a lot of pitting at all. It's extremely minor, one tiny little hole just there. So I'm going to patch that up there, and the ones at the top, that one there, and this one I'm not even going to touch. I'm just going to put a bit of primer over it. This one here I'm just going to fill a tiny bit. It's got a little hole there, stop any moisture getting through into the seal. You can't sort of get into here, into this area, but a little bit of filler in there, and then prime it. Same with that one, I'll just prime. It's pretty solid. This one here, I should put a tiny bit of filler and start sanding that whole seal back all the way down both sides of the car, getting it ready for the renew back to the black. Okay, well, I'll get that done and show you how I get on. Okay, so I've done the work on the patching up spot. It was, so minor. Only the dark grey spots that you can see there are actually filler. It's actually liquid metal, or the putty metal that you make up. It's come out really good, nice and flush, and you can see it's a textured surface anyway. So even if there's a tiny little bit of pitting, it's not really going to matter once I'm finished. I've got a funny feeling that it might be an idea to be reapplying this texture, possibly with a roller, just rolling it along. with a small roller to get that textured finish. I'll have to research that a little bit. But I'm going to finish sanding off this side. While I was waiting for this to set, I removed the back bumper because I'm going to be repainting the bumpers. So the bumpers are over here. I'm going to be repainting them, obviously. So I wanted to remove them off the car so I can sand them down and give them a good job. It's just both sides of the main back bumper, just two 17mm bolts, or should I say nuts, that you take off. You can get in from underneath the bumper pretty easily, and the small pieces on the sides are just a matter of coming inside the boot, removing a little bit of the lining, and you can see those two holes there. That's where the side bumpers were attached. 10mm for these ones down here, and same on the driver's side here, obviously right hand drive. This is the left hand side, and same on the right hand side. Pretty easy to remove. Bit of fiddling around with the 17mm. Had to use an open end spanner, couldn't quite get a ratchet ring spanner in there. It was just a little bit too thick, wasn't enough clearance, but just an ordinary ring spanner or an open end. It worked quite well. Just took about probably 15 minutes. Didn't really take that long. Anyhow, I'm going to move the car out and start working on the front bumper and finish off sanding those skirts down the side below the doors. And yeah, I'll do another quick one, show you the front bumper when I get it off. Never taken one off, so it's going to be a work in progress. Cheers. Okay, just under the front bumper on the right hand side, and that's the wiring for the fog light indicator, I should say, indicator and park lights. Okay, so yellow, blue, black, yellow, blue, black to the clip, and then in the other one for the fog light, there's those two there, and it's exactly the same on the other side. I'm just going to disconnect them before I pull it off. Okay, so I've removed the front bumper. I removed the sides first, but I don't think it really matters. So two bolts here. Now these ones, unlike the back ones, are 17. These are only 13mm nuts to come off, and you can get in from underneath the bumper as well. You don't have to take the grill out. I've taken the grill out because there it is there, because I want to renew it, clean it up while it's there. Might as well. I'm sort of going to go inside here as well and clean a few things up. Might even give my air horns a respray. See, they're a bit tatty. These ones, you'd have to disconnect your wires here. This is to your indicators and park lights. This one's to your fog lights. And it's the same on the other side. It's just exactly the same on the other side. That's all the wiring you have to undo to get the bumper off at the front. To get the ones off from the side, first thing to do is to come in through here, and they're down there. You can see where my finger's pointing, hole there. You can get, it's under here, but you can get under there. You bring your hand around over the battery. Failing that, if it really is a big problem, take the wheel off and the wheel arch liner at the front below here, and get into it that way. You didn't have to do it, I don't think, on this side. Well, I didn't have to anyway, but I did on this side. Down there, once again, you can see that's one of them just there in the center of shot, right there. And the other one's a little bit buried behind here, so I took the wheel off and got to it just there. It's just there. It's not hard to get to. Let's see if I can get it in shot. It's a little bit hard, a little bit pokey and dark in here. There it is there. Fingers over it. So you can get to it pretty easily from here, from the side, but it just means taking the wheel off and taking this arch here. So the front bumper is a little bit more involved than the rear bumper to take off. And obviously to renew this bumper, obviously I have my number plate and fog lights and indicator park lights to come out. It's not a big deal, but what I have noticed with this bumper, unlike the rear bumper inside, it's a bit hard to see with the light around here at the moment, it's not bad, but this bumper here, I'll just take it inside into a bit of shade. Noticed on the inside quite a lot of surface rust. It's really probably the rustiest part of the car. The rest of the car has no rust, so I was a little bit surprised to see all this. I think it would be a good idea at some stage to possibly, you can see these are riveted on, just some big ass rivets. I don't have a rivet gun big enough to do that, but might be an idea. I'm going to take the lights out, of course, when I paint it, and I might give this a treatment and give it a good coat of paint on the inside with some rust kill. So I'm going to Rain-X it and then rust kill it, and hopefully it'll preserve it. I mean, it's solid. It really is just surface, just a bit of surface rust. But yeah, I'll give that a good Rain-X and put some rust kill paint on it before I paint the outsides. Okay, so I'm going to take these lights off is the next step. Put the wheel back on the car, put the car back in the shed, because basically I'm almost done with the car. I've just got to actually sand that side seal and put it back in the shed, and then it's going to be ready for the renewed bumpers pretty much. Just a little bit of cleaning up, clean off the bugs on the radiators, being very careful when you do that, and like I said, I might renew those air horns. It's not a biggie because you sort of don't see them, but no, it's, you know, you're there. If you've got the time to do it, might as well do these little details. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Okay, so I've taken the lights out of the bumpers and the number plate off, and I was talking about renewing, getting this all done. I'm really considering drilling these big ass rivets out. Can you, I mean, look at the build quality of this. Look at the spacer in there. Like, there's no spacer in the bottom ones. See that? No spacers, no spacer, and so on. And in these top ones, there's a spacer. So because they're riveted in, obviously they're put in under the power of the rivet gun, but look what the spacer creates. Creates this wave. Yeah? Shocking, if you ask me. I mean, surely that's not from the factory. Could it possibly, I mean, does anybody know anything on that? If you do, leave it in the comments. But are you telling me that that there is from factory? Well, I'm going to try and rectify that anyway. Even if I have to put one piece right across there, one piece of aluminium or so, or something, to take up that space, so it's an even space all the way across. But I'm thinking of drilling these out and drill those rivets out, and I'm thinking of taking that inside piece and having it sandblasted. I'm just not 100% sure if it will part company with the plastic bumper in front of it. I don't know if it's glued together or not. I don't think it is, but looks like there's a bit of play there. So hopefully, if I drill them out, I'll be able to remove this whole piece, this metal piece, And I think for the hell of it, if I want to fix this up, because you can see a little bit of that ripple there at the front of the car, especially that point just there. You can see that. I've noticed it ever since I've had the car. It's always bugged me. But I'm going to look at rectifying that while they're off. Do it once, do it right. So I'm going to take this in and have it sandblasted, I think. See if I can get this plastic liner off and have the rest of it sandblasted. I'll let you know how I get on. Okay, so I've drilled out all those rivets, and much to my delight, and as I expected, it's just going to separate. So I'm doing it as I film it, separating here. So they're now separated. Just a matter of those rivets. So now I can go around and fix up all these little dents and make it Mickey Mouse. Get it sandblasted, straighten it out, get it sandblasted and repaint it, and then put it back onto this bumper and hopefully try and sort out this buckling issue. Surely I can do it better than it was. Now, a moment of truth. I guess let's see what the other side is like. Oh, it's sweet. That's beautiful. It's like it's just virtually come from the factory. So, ooh, as you can see, quite a rusty spot there. Yeah, so it's a bit of a dent there. So my view is the dent's there, water is coming through, going into there, sneaking into this area, and then sitting between the plastic and there. So I think it's a good idea to have done this after 30 odd years. It's not in too bad a condition, just needs a little bit of TLC and it should be fine. These are the little spaces that are in between, little plastic spaces, which, you know, I won't be putting them back in, but at least it gives me an idea of what that space will be, that gap will be. I might put one piece along there, a strip in other words, and looks like it'll be a plastic strip, but they're the little spaces. But anyhow, I'm going to get that sandblasted and I'm going to renew that. Cool. Alright, see you in the next one. Okay guys, just an update on the bumper restoration on the Mondial. I was going to get this inner metal bumper piece sandblasted because it had a little bit of surface rust on it, but after sanding it a little bit I realised it really wasn't that bad. It was actually quite solid, so I've given it a good sand back. I've given it a treatment with rust converter primer in 1, and then as you can see I've given it a light spray. Well, when I say a light spray with just a spray pack can, and yeah, it's come up pretty good, and it's just to protect it. These are obviously bare metal originally, so not a good idea because they do get a bit of moisture between the plastic rubber and the metal, and that's what causes the rust. But this car doesn't get wet, so I don't see it getting any worse than it was, but it's turned out pretty good. Sorry if the light's a bit bad. It's a pretty sunny day here at the moment. The indicators, I noticed the plastic on the backing of the indicators was starting to get a little bit brittle. You might be able to see a little bit of the pitting just there. In an attempt to try and prevent that from getting any worse, I've given them a good coat, about 4 or 5 coats of acrylic paint. Make sure if you do that, mask them up really well, and hopefully that'll give them a little bit more longevity. The actual fog lights, I've pulled them apart. The backings had a little bit of surface rust on them, so I've pulled them off and given them a respray. I've also rust treated them and given them a respray, so they've come out reasonably well. They never get seen anyway, it's more for protection rather than cosmetic. And I've also redone the inside of the reflectors, resprayed those as well and renewed them because they were a little bit stained and just looking a bit tatty. It's not much you can do with the glass. 35 years of pitting at the front, they're not too bad. I just put a bit of acetone on them and cleaned them up. These rubber seals, they are actually made like this, they're not broken. It's obviously squirted in as they're manufactured. Just be really careful if you do pull these apart, because these seals can be a little bit sticky and you can tear them really easily. So once again, they're not broken. Okay, that's just the way they are. That bit there sits at the bottom of the lens, and the lens is actually marked top on the inside up there. So make sure that that bit there, when you put them back on, is on the bottom. Put them back on exactly the way they've come off on the correct one. So I actually haven't removed that one, to be truthfully honest. I've left it on there. This one here I did remove off completely because I had to. And yeah, the frames, I've just put a bit of Brasso metal polish on them. They came up pretty good. So when these ones are nice and dry, because they've been painted not that long ago, when they're nice and dry, probably tomorrow sometime, I'll put these back together. So all the lights, fog lights and indicators will be ready to go back in. The only other thing I've done so far is painted my grille, resprayed it, so I've sanded it back and resprayed it. And of course, with the car, the lighting's good. There's the rust repair. It's been primed over. So now it's just a matter of working out what technique to use to try and get this hammered finish that there is. You can see there a little bit of black spotting because I've sanded that slightly, so the raised areas have gone black. So the yeah, that job came out really well, I think. It's not too bad. You know, if there's any slight blemishes, it's not going to be seen, because once I do this hammered finish on it, you won't notice any small imperfections, but it got rid of that little tiny bubbling rust. So now the car is, after doing the front bumper, the car's completely rust free as far as I'm aware, 100%. So that's a really good thing. Good climate here in Western Australia. It's 27 degrees today, so it's a good climate here. So this car doesn't see water only when it gets washed, and even when it gets washed, it's not washed in very often. Maybe once a year it gets a proper water hose, and, you know, sort of really soak. I try and keep it as dry as I can. Anyhow, I'll get back to you when I start preparing the rubber for the bumpers and start to spray them. Cheers. Okay guys, I'm basically ready to put the bumper back together again. I want to sand the rubber part of the bumper with the metal frame inside, just so it's a little bit more stable. As you can see, it's quite flexible there. Just so it's a little bit more stable. This, I was going to get this inner piece sandblasted. I didn't. For the price of getting it sandblasted and the amount of rust that was on it, it just really didn't make sense. I could spend that money on a lot of other things like tools and so on. So I got out a bit of elbow grease and I sanded it back. Then I treated it with a rust converter, and then I painted the entire thing just a matte black or semi-gloss black, as you can see here. So I'm going to insert that. Now, originally, a bit earlier in the video, I showed where the rivets were going into the frame through here, yeah, and there were those little spaces which was causing this warping. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm using the same thickness piece of plastic. I'm going to make one piece right across so it's even the whole way. So there's an even pull down, and I may even put more rivets in. As you can see, I've used the same size rivets, so just to mimic the factory. This here, I didn't know what to use, so I had a look around our equivalent to Home Depot, which is called Bunnings, and this is just a strip that I've cut away from garden edging. So it's 3mm, so it's exactly the same width as the washers, the plastic washers that came out of here. And I just cut a strip, required length, and used that. I just had some lying around in my shed. So I came up with the idea walking around Bunnings for 10 minutes and realised, hang on, I've got some of that at home. So I'm going to be using that. So I'm going to put this into the plastic cover, then I'm going to slide this in, and then I'm going to drill my holes. I'll probably start in the centre, drill that one, and actually fix that one. I'm using a compressor and a pneumatic riveter, and I've got plenty of rivets, so if I need to put more in, I think there's about 18 or so in this whole thing. So if I need to put more in, I will, but I'll only do that if I think it's necessary to help pull this bumper down and get it nice and flush. Okay, so I'm going to get started on that. So as you can see, the bumper's in, it just slides in, there's nothing hard about it. Just make sure all your holes are lined up, and you can see I'm putting the plastic strip in now. Now I did pre-measure it, so hopefully I've got the right length. And hopefully it's the right width. Length seems to be good. Width seems to be good. So I want it to sit flush just on that edge. It's got a little bit of a warp in it, I think. So I want it to sit flush like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drill this one through. I'm going to put a rivet in that one and fix that one. So then that rubber piece, that plastic piece is in there. I'll do that and get back to you. Okay, so I'm just going to drill a hole through here. It should be pretty easy. So I'm going through the plastic only. It's not actually these holes in the metal, of course, and the bumper, the rubber bumper, are actually already holes in there. So I'm just going where the old holes are. A rivet and geez, I love pneumatic rivet guns. And it's done. That one's done. So I'm just going to go along and I've just clamped them. If you can see that clamp there. There's a clamp on either side. I've just clamped them a little bit just to get it started. So I can go along and make sure that this is nice and square. Alright, I'm going to go along and do all of them, and then I shall get back to you. Okay, so I've put all the factory rivets back in, as in the amount of factory rivets back in. You can see the little green strip in there. It's made it a lot better. It's a lot flatter. It's a lot more even across. There's not that wave that was pretty obvious. But you see there's a little couple of mil gap there, couple of mil gap there. I'd like to get rid of that. So I'm thinking of putting a few more in. I'm thinking of putting them in every one between two. On this particular corner, it's quite clear. Yeah, sort of the last one's there, and then it's all the way over there. So it's one about here would be nice, just to pull that in nicely. Underneath the bottom is not a problem. There's only really one area here, or two, one at either end. There's one here. I may put one more in there, just at the end, and on the other side as well. You can see there's quite a gap. Might just put one in there just to pull that bumper up a bit there. Just pull that up. Otherwise, it's pretty good. So those rivets work nicely. So hopefully that's going to make a big difference, because it used to have a bit of a dip here in the bumper. I can still see a bit of a dip there. You could see it from the front of the car. So hopefully if I pull that in, that's going to help alleviate that dip. Anyhow, I'm going to do all that and basically get it ready for the sanding, because that's what's next once I put these rivets in. As I said, I'm going to halve the rivets, put them in there and there, only at the top, not at the bottom. Just put two at the bottom on the corners, and then I'm going to basically get them ready for sanding. See you soon. Okay, I've gone and put all those rivets in. They're now much better. It's a lot firmer, and as you can see, that line along there is a lot straighter than it used to be. Earlier in the video it was quite waved because of those stupid spaces. This is going to make the bumper sit a lot flatter, hopefully, a lot truer. And the bottom I put in those corners there, you can see the difference it's made to each of the corners. Alright, well that's ready for sanding now, so it's refurbed and yeah, should be good. Alright, I'll get to the sanding. So I've just brought my car out of the garage. I've done the kick seals, painted them. Hopefully they're going to look alright. It's a very bright day today, so it's a bit difficult to see them, but hopefully they've turned out alright. What I used was Rust-Oleum hammer paint, hammer finish. I used the black, but I can tell you now the black is grey. It's more like a gunmetal grey. It's not black, so I needed that for the finish. So then on top of that I used some Rust-Oleum just semi-gloss black over the top, which I did a test spot on a piece of metal just to make sure the two paints combine well, and they do. So hopefully that's turned out alright. Hopefully I don't have too many spots where it's a bit, where it's light or heavy. It was a little bit hard to paint that underneath there, and as you can see, taped up nicely, things covered. But anyhow, that part's done, so now it's just a matter of finishing off the sanding of the bumpers and paint them, then reassemble. Cheers. Okay, time to put the chrome seal onto the door seals. It's just this side. I haven't taken the other side off. I might just polish it in place. I polished it up a little bit, came up okay. So all I'm doing is I'm just oh, it's not very good here. I'm just putting Selleys liquid nails. That's all I'm using, adhesive, just for this. So I'm going to just put it on in 3 spots, just like Ferrari had. Oop, don't do that. And then I'm going to slide it on, stick it down, and then use my sophisticated weights system. I just need to put the camera down. I've got a bit of goo on the end of it. I'll put that on because I can't do it with one hand. I'll put it on and I'll come back. Okay, that's on. It's glued down, and I've just put a bit of weight on the top there. I'll probably leave that on for about an hour or so, and then I'll take it off. It's sitting on there really well, so I don't think it's going to be warping at all. It's, it's ribbed stainless steel by the look of it, so, well, hopefully it's stainless steel. It's definitely chromed anyway. It's chrome steel. It's ribbed, so it's pretty strong. I don't think it's going to bend at all or flip up. So it sits in there nicely with the seal back on, and yeah, once give that an hour and then shut the door, and that's all done. Okay, time to put the front grille back on. Hey guys, just a very quick one. My battery's low. Just on the sanding of the bumpers, I've started to sand the bumpers down. I'm using a 180 grit and electric sander, just being very careful on the high sharp edges. Just make sure when you're doing it, nice even strokes right across and back again. Makes it nice and even. Pay close attention to the leading edge of the overrider on the bumper, this part here. Okay, pay close attention to it, because as you can see there, see that there? See that there? You want to get all of that out, okay? Because if you don't, when you go to paint it, it's going to look crap. You're not going to get a nice, neat line. Now, it wants to look like that when you're done this bit here. That's all I've done up to here. But you can see there, that nice big chunk just fell off, okay? Because a lot of paint collects in that area there, okay? So if I look at my other bumper, the back one, so the area I'm talking about is that there. okay, and do the same with your rear one, of course, and your side skirts as well, the side parts of the bumpers as well. Yeah, so you want it looking like that, nice and clean. Okay, very clean, so when you go to paint it, it'll be a nice clean line. Otherwise, if you leave it, you know, you can see it there, starting there, and it'll look rippled. It will not be a nice clean line. So take your time, do that by hand. So I'm doing it two ways. I'm doing it with that one, and I'm also going along at the end, which is what I'm up to now, and I'm basically cutting it out like that, just by using the sharp edge of a folded piece of sandpaper. As I said, 180 grit. I think that's good enough. It's got paint and primer on it, so 180 is fine as far as I'm concerned. I'll see how it goes when I've finished it, and I might even put a 120 over it. I don't think so, but I think the 180 will be fine. Anyway, watch for that, otherwise it'll look crap. Cheers. Okay guys, all the bumpers have been sanded back and ready for some undercoat, and yeah, I'm going to give them the undercoat and then give that a couple of days to dry, and then put on the black. Alright, ready to go. I'll get back to you when that's done. Alright, they've all been primed, ready for a second sanding, just a light sand. A 400 to 600 grit is what I'm going to put over the top of them, just to take out any little bubbles that form from the spray paint. So they came out pretty good, not too bad. Just be aware, the front bumper is a rubber, it's a flexible rubber. The rear bumper is a hard, it's a solid piece, it doesn't flex. This one is much easier to sand and to deal with. You get the imperfections out of it pretty good. The front one, it's the rubber, it's a flexible rubber. So pay particular care when sanding this one, because if there's any high spots or anything, I don't know if you can see that in the light, if there's any high spots or anything, they will be noticeable under the primer. However, it may disappear when I paint it. I'm going to paint it as it is once I've given it the light sand with the 600 grit paper. I'm going to paint it, and then I'm going to see it, and if it's not good enough, then I'm going to sand it back and try and get just the, it's mainly this overrider that is probably the issue. And I'll sand that back and see if I can get it a little bit better. But it's not bad, it's pretty good. Not bad for the backyard. Anyway, I'll get back to you once I've painted them black. So the next time you see them, they should be black. Cheers. Okay, so I'm going to refit my air horns and my grille back on. I've refurbed my air horns, that you can see, looking pretty sweet, nicely painted and cleaned. That's why I pulled them off. You don't have to pull them off, obviously. I pulled them off to redo them. They've been down there for 35 years, so it's about time they were redone. I've checked them both, they both work, both in good condition. The small one is in the key of D, and the longer one is in the key of E. So for anybody who's interested, D and E. Alright, I'm going to fit them. It's just a little bracket just in here. There's a nut just there, and that nut basically goes through that bracket. Just going to have to find myself a washer because I've lost the washer to it, and I don't know why, but I have. So yeah, basically they just fit on in like that, so the trumpets are facing outwards. And of course, if you've got one of these cars, you already know that. Cool, I'll get back to you when that's done. Okay, so the air horns back in. Trumpets nicely painted, so they'll look good if you ever see them. You virtually don't see them. And the grill is in. So now it's just a matter of waiting for those bumpers to dry and then put them on. I will show you the bumpers before I put them on, once they're finished painted black. And then job should be done. Cheers. Okay guys, bumpers are all painted. It's basically the first sort of paint, as in I've done about probably good 5 coats of black on there. It's a semi-gloss, so it's a satin. I don't like really shiny bumpers, I think they look rubbish, and matte, completely matte bumpers look old. So it's just got a semi-gloss, you can sort of see it there in the light, what light's left. Tomorrow I'm going to let them dry overnight. This paint only takes 4 hours to dry, but I'm going to leave it for 24 hours and then I'm going to give them a very light sand where necessary and give them another coat, probably another 2. I have heaps of paint. This has taken about probably 350ml worth of paint, black paint, so not a lot. So I bought a litre, so that's plenty. I'll have some left over. So you can see there, the sheen on them is nice. It actually looks shinier through the camera than it actually is. I think I'm very pleased with it. I think it's going to be exactly what I'm after. They've turned out all right, but unfortunately with black, of course, you see things. You know, you can see those there. They're in the mouldings. That's not damage or anything. There's another one there. That's at the back of where the bolts are that come through on the other side. So the other one has it as well. Just can't see it on this angle. Those sorts of things you're going to see. It's, you know, it's black, so black shows up all those kind of things. But yeah, anyhow, that's that. Till tomorrow. Next time you see me, I'll be fitting these to the car. Cheers. Okay guys, it's time to fit my lights, and once I've done that, fit the bumpers to the car. So obviously fog lights are on the inside, okay, 17mm nut here. So the nuts at the back, obviously, I mean, if you've got a car like this, you're going to know anyway. So I put a couple of new spring washers. The old ones are pretty old. And basically make sure you feed through the wire. Just be careful that falls off, so you don't want it to fall off and bash into the... A little bit fiddly. There it goes. To say I'm a touch excited to put these bumpers onto the car today would be an understatement. It's been a few weeks now. Since I started this job, I wanted to do it right, so I've taken my time with it. And I think it's come out really nice. I've used Rust-Oleum bumper paint. Just getting my lights nice and square. Okay. And this one here, indicator on the outside obviously. Once again I renewed the washers on here, so the rubber is on this side, the metal washer and nut from underneath. I guess I won't need you to watch that, but I'm going to fit these and then come back and suss out putting it onto the car once I've got my number plate on there as well. Alright, I'll be back. Hey guys, I decided once I fitted the bumpers to just do this last video in a little bit more exotic location. So I'm in the port city of Fremantle, about 20 minutes south of Perth City. So if I look this way, because I'm on quite a tall hill here, and I keep going like that, you're going to see the city buildings. That's Perth City CBD down there, with our 5 or 6 really tall buildings. Where I am, I'm at the World War I Memorial in Fremantle, East Fremantle, okay, port city of Fremantle. So if I pan over here, you'll see some container ships and so on down there at the dock, and of course the horizon, and the main city of Fremantle is that away. So I'm on a pretty high location here, high elevation. It's a lovely memorial, this. It's World War I memorial. It's a memorial for all the wars fought for Fremantle, but it's specifically World War I memorial. So there's the Mondial with the bumpers fitted. You need to pay close attention to when fitting the bumpers to make sure that you put them on square, because they won't just go on square. You have to square them up, you have to tweak them, tighten a bolt, loosen a bolt, that kind of stuff to get that parallel. Otherwise those lines will not be parallel. Okay, so pay close attention to that when you're fitting them. It took me about 2 hours to fit them, to be honest. So also making sure you're checking the gaps as well here. Just there, that gap there equals the gap at the back. There. On the front of the car, I'll just show you the back. It's pretty sweet. On the front of the car, the left-hand side, so passenger side over here, is that gap's a little bit wider. You see there? Than this side here. I thought the bumper might be bent or the frame or something like that, but then I realised there's a tow hitch right there, and it's exactly why that bumper's pulled out a tiny bit. It's about 1 centimetre, so it's not too much. So less than ½ inch. There it is. It's looking pretty sweet. I think it looks fab. A lot more original now. Anyway, I hope this video helps someone out. Thanks for watching.